Gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. This is Unboxable Kings. My name is Joshua, and the goal of this channel is to help unbox the king that already lives inside of you and empower you to live a life free and on your own terms. And in this video, I want to talk about what that actually means. What is free and on your own terms? Because to me, it's a very important concept in this reality that we all experience, or at least I experience. And it's a concept that if you download and start to focus on and give your awareness to, I believe, and from my experience and working with clients and friends and other men, it's a concept that can set you free and it can allow you to live a more vibrant, empowered life, and that's what we're all about. So before we jump in, if you want to check out our coaching options, visit the link in the description. We got some banger deals going on over there, and it's a way to accelerate this whole process, work one-to-one with a trained professional, and just have somebody on your side. It's a whole lot of good there. So check that out in the link in the description. So a life on your own terms, what does that actually mean? Well, let's go right back to the start. You're born, you're a wee little baby. You're a squishy little entity that can't really do a lot for itself, pretty much nothing. And therefore, the terms that you live on are absolutely dictated to you. What you eat, when you sleep, where you go to sleep, where you live, what you wear, how clean you are. Every single term in your life is dictated for you. Yes, you can cry and you can wail your way to demanding certain things like, I'm hungry, feed me, but for the most part, every single term in your life is dictated to you. You don't have any say on that. You can't even talk, right? And as you progress into boyhood, the amount of terms that are dictated to you may decrease a little bit, but not really. And at least for me, every term that I lived with for a really good percentage of my life, all the way up till really 15, 16, were dictated to me, What I eat, same thing. Where do I go to sleep? What do I do with my time? What do I learn at school? How do I talk? What are my manners? All of these terms are dictated to me. So I was not living a life on my own terms. And that is the most common formation that happens to pretty much every boy, at least most boys I've met that are now men. It's just you live and you're told how to live, told what to think, told what to do. And then for me, around 10, 12, there's like this feeling, this urge to set your own terms and live life in a way that you want to live. And with that comes resistance. And to give you an example of this, I was just so drawn to making a fire and burning stuff, cooking food outside. I remember being about 10, 11, that's all I wanted to do. And my mom was like, no, we're not doing that, it's too dangerous. And I remember drawing it out on pages, drawing it out on paper. Here's the thing, I'm going to put this wood in here and the grill's going to go on there. And I was so excited, never allowed to do it. That was a term that I just couldn't live with, and it just used to cause so much resistance, and I get so stubborn and I get so angry with that. And that's just an example, because as I got older, more terms started to stack up that I didn't feel like I had a say in, and it made me feel really trapped. I got to school, and it's like, you're going to study this, you're going to do this. Oh, now you've got to take your GCSEs, which is just, in America, I think it's called SATs, but the first real qualification, it's so important. You've got to study, you've got to do it all. You're going to do this topic, and then, when you're 16, you get a couple, or 15 or whatever, you get a couple of choices. Instead of studying this, you can now choose this. And I remember that first time where I got to set my own terms, I felt so empowered that I actually felt more free, even though really 95% of the rest of my life was still being dictated to me. And I think this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Most boys don't really know what they want. They can be a bit reckless, etc., etc. But I will do it differently with my kids, but that's going to be a story for another video. The purpose of this video is highlighting the point that the more of that occurs, the more of your life spent not on your own terms, I believe, and I assert from my experience, the worse life gets, and the more frustrated, the more tense, the more dis-ease, and the less manly you feel, because you're just not being able to dictate your own terms. So you get to 18, and it's like, oh, you're a man now, you're an adult, or 21 in America, or wherever it is. And the people who were setting the terms before, your parents, school, whoever it was, they kind of just, for most people, and again for me, get replaced by an employer, by the government, by society, by another entity that isn't you. I don't remember getting the advice or the empowerment to be like, right, set your list of terms, how you want to live, what you want to experience, what you want to do, how you want to spend your time, how you want to invest your energy. You are now the sovereign power. You get to dictate your terms. I never had that. I never got somebody to tell me that, and that's why I'm making this video. And therefore, I just sort of like floated, like in the fossum, you know, being told what to do, how to live, how to think, and ultimately living a life just not on my terms. And for me, the crash point was when I did get diagnosed with cancer. And when I think about back to that, I'm not saying it's the same for everybody, but the amount of stress I remember feeling, just constantly constrained, constantly not being the dude I wanted to be, always limited by somebody else's terms and conditions. I just always remember feeling like, and maybe you feel like that. Maybe you've got to this video because you feel like that, and your life doesn't matter how old you are, where you're from, where you're at in life. If you feel like that, maybe trace back where in your life you are not setting the terms. Because that's the next part of this video, is that when I realized that that was happening and I got better, I got out of hospital, I was like, I'm going to live a life on my own terms. Whatever that means, I don't really know what that means right now. I'm going to live a life on my own terms. I'm going to swing for the bleachers. I'm going to go all in on as many things as I want. If I fail, I fail. If I succeed, I succeed. But it's on my terms now. And for the last 10 years, I progressively reclaimed control over so many terms in my life. When I go to work, how much work I do, what type of work it is, how much I get paid, what I eat, how I sleep, where I sleep, what I wear, the relationships that I keep, the language choice that I use, the safety precautions that I take, pretty much every term in my life. There are a couple that I'm still working on because I'm still working on it. I'm still a dude in the process. As you can tell, I'm still a young dude here. And for the future self that's making videos in the future, you will look back at these videos and think, wow, you were a young dude, because I am a young dude and I am a young king in my kingdom. So I am still working on a few, and maybe it will always be like that. Maybe that's part of the challenge here. I'm not sure. But for the most part, where it used to be like 95% dictated to me and 5% where I could actually control some of the variables and choose how I wanted to live, it's now definitely 90 to 95% of my life is lived on my terms. I live how I want. And I can't tell you how much liberation and freedom that makes me feel. It just makes me feel great. Does it mean that life doesn't come with challenges? No. Does it mean that you don't still have to do some things that you don't want to do because there's still terms that you opt into that you don't necessarily want to be in? Like, for example, in marriage, there's going to be certain terms that I keep up with my wife that I'm not always like, oh my God, I'm so thrilled to live by these terms. But at least I set them. At least I get to dictate what they are and then dictate the level I'm willing to tolerate. And for my overall well-being as a man, it's just made me want to continue living. And I know statistics show, it's not me making it up, there are a lot of dudes out there that just end their life by their own choice. And for me, analysing and looking at why that is and basing it on what I've experienced and the emotions I've gone through, whenever I have all the terms stacked against me and I'm not living life free and on my own terms, that's when it leads down to the road of, this would be better if I just wasn't experiencing it. And that's ultimately the feeling and the emotion and the root and the seed that takes, and that's what leads to suicide. So I'm not saying that that is the way for everybody, but on a scale, and if you haven't watched the scale video, please go back and watch that, because that's how I think, and it will help you understand this, that if we take another piece of cedar, you got a piece of cedar around, it's like if you're tilted this way, all the way to 0% of your life is lived on your own terms, compared to 100% of your life lived on your own terms, which side is going to make you feel more of the man that you want to be, and which side is going to make you want to live and keep on living and really live like a fulfilled, passion-filled, filled, a really passion-driven life, something that you want to continue experiencing. It's obviously this way. Nobody's going to convince me that being told what to do all of the time is the way, and not having any control on the terms that you experience is the way that's going to make you feel more empowered. And that's why I do this channel, because if you take nothing from these videos other than the idea and the concept of like, oh, I actually can do that. I actually can dictate all of the terms that I live on. I actually can choose all of this and opt in and opt out, rewrite contracts that don't serve you, because who's stopping you other than you? And if you've never been told that, If you've never been given that, like I had never been given that for the first 21 years of my life, well, maybe you just don't know that. And that's why I do continue to make these videos all the different topics we talk about: health, marriage, women, business, money, all of these different topics. They ultimately comes back down to living on your own terms, at least for me. So that's what it's about. That's what it's about for me. And if you're here watching this still at 10 or so minutes in, maybe that's what it is about for you. You know, maybe that's what you've been waiting to hear. Maybe in your echo chamber, everybody that you're around is just like lived a certain way, always done it a certain way, always accepted certain terms as, oh, that's just how it is. Oh, I don't really want to do this, but that's just how it is. Yep, I got to go do this job and get paid kind of shit, and oh, that's just how it is. Oh, I got to be kind of overweight because, well, that's just how it is. I've got to get drunk at the weekends. That's just how it is. Well, it's not just how it is. They're terms that were just set from somebody somewhere that you have maybe subconsciously just continue to opt into. So I'm giving you to go and change those terms and start to reclaim who you are and start to live a life on your terms, because you're going to feel way better. And a selfish reason, another byproduct of doing this channel is that when more men do that and make that choice, the whole network grows, and therefore there's mutual benefit for everybody. Because if you have a network of men all living on their own terms, you do more business, you create more opportunities, you have more fun. It's just better. So I wouldn't say that's selfish, it's just another byproduct of doing this. And it's important to me. Maybe it's not important to you, but if you're still watching, it definitely is. So I appreciate you watching this. If it's resonated, a lot of the coaching that we do is essentially a space where you can reflect back in your own words and see where the terms in your life are not in alignment with who you want to be. Because if you don't have a safe space where somebody's actually asking questions, somebody that cares, somebody isn't just telling you what to do, that's not what coaching is. I think that's what mentorship is telling you what to do. The coaching we do is creating a safe container where you can ask questions and then receive a question back that changes the way that you think. And it illuminates for many people, like, oh, I just opted into these terms. Why am I even doing any of this? I don't even feel good doing any of this. Maybe that's why I'm not making the money I want. Maybe that's why I'm not in the relationships that I want. And then you can go and create change much faster. And that's what a lot of the coaching is to empower you with that safe space. So it's not just passive. You're not just listening to our voice, my voice. You get to actually talk, receive questions, etc. And if you want to check that out, links in the description. All right, well, that's what it means. I'm going to reference this video in future videos. So if you've enjoyed this, please stick around, join in the comments, jump on the newsletter, interact, be a good dude, add value back. We've got a really good comment section, got a really good newsletter, really good people, really good network of men all pursuing and living, actually no pursuit, just living a life on their own terms. What a beautiful time to be alive. All right, I've been Joshua. This has been Unboxable Kings. We are unboxing the king that lives within you, and I'll see you next time. All right, much love. Peace.